Hi and welcome to the Lightleaders, a podcast for lightworkers who want more money, power and impact. I'm your host, Alex E. Lember. I believe that we are currently in the middle of a global awakening of humanity and that leveraging entrepreneurship is the fastest way to raise the consciousness of our planet. So in this podcast, I interview lightworkers and conscious entrepreneurs who follow their soul mission and have built a business around it. I call them light leaders, and this is the new paradigm. You will hear their stories and, more importantly, receive tools, tips, and strategies on how you can also impact more people and grow your business while following your soul mission. If you hear little nuggets you love and you'd like to share, screenshot this episode and share on your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag us at the Light Leaders Podcast and we will repost. There's a device I love and use almost every day. It's called the Healy. It sends specific frequencies to the body. It's been developed by quantum physicists from Germany, and it is the next evolution of health and well-being. It has amazing results. On top of it, it's an entrepreneurial opportunity. This is how I monetize my lifestyle, my brand, and this podcast. So if you're interested in getting this amazing device for yourself, or also in the entrepreneurial opportunity, I would love to help you. You can go to www.thelightleaders.org/Healy, Healy. Hi, and welcome to this new episode of The Light Leaders. Today, I'm with Galban. Lion has been a holistic lifestyle coach for over 22 years, transforming the lives of thousands through global workshops, retreats, webinars, and one-on-one coaching. Growing up in the self-help mecca of the world, Northern California, he has been immersed in personal development since his early teen years and has since dedicated his life to supporting the expansion of consciousness and liberation of humanity from the limitations of the mind by deepening his students' relationship with authenticity, embodiment, sexuality, emotional intelligence, and mental mastery. Lion, welcome to the show.
It's so good to be here. Thank you, brother.
So, Lion, my first question is, what are you grateful for today?
Let's see. I'm grateful to be at a juncture in my life, having gone through enough to experience and learn what it takes to step through your barriers and to be able to share that with the world. We're in a momentous time right now, and I feel really grateful that I have a clear channel from the Creator to offer to people to guide them on their journey. It feels really good. I'm in my Dharma. I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Thanks, Lion.
Yeah.
I love to give a bit of context to the listener. So today we'll cover many things, but a lot about harnessing the power of the dark masculine, and that would be a very juicy topic. Also something very alive for me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love first to give some context and to ask you, what's your greater why, your vision for the world, and how what you do with your business and your activities help to bring that into manifestation?
Well, I think that we are the center of the universe, and humans are really special. We have been kind of living in a sleep state for a long time, and it's showing up in the health of our ecology, the biosphere, the hydrosphere, atmosphere, the hydrosphere, just how terra forma is the health of the planet. And we see that also in the relationships between country to country and in community to community. There's a lot of fragmentation within individual relationships, between partnerships. There's a lot of there's a lot of divorce, there's a lot of separation, there's a lot of feeling solitude and feeling not a part of, and the individual being separate from themselves. So if we go down, there's a fractal example of disconnect And I think it all fundamentally comes down to the individual not understanding their true potency and the gift that they have to offer to the world. And once individuals move beyond this little, stuff of the ego that is the blockages we carry from past traumatic experiences where we didn't have the proper emotional intelligence skills to deal with challenges that were emerging in our life, those become blockages in our life, and they stop us from really being able to express our full power. And I think when individuals overcome those things, then they become more effective change makers. They become more effective at inspiring other people. Their craft actually has energy behind it, and they embody what they're teaching, which is one of the most important things. So I want to make people really effective at what they're doing. I want their craft to actually have an impact on people. And so I think it's going to enact a larger change. Each individual becomes basically in a ripple effect. You throw it in a pebble in the pond and it just comes out from there. Any individual that interacts with them becomes inspired because they're truly living what they're teaching. And so that's my passion. I want to help people to stop faking it till you make it, stop pretending, but actually embody the essence of their spirit, to feel confidence as a real thing within you that changes the way that you behave as the most natural thing that you could ever do, not an effortful thing that you have to try, but you just can be yourself, and your craft is landing on people, and the words that you speak are scripture because you're speaking from your own direct experience. And I think that's the most important thing we can do is inspire other people, actually make change through our work, and we'll see a change in our relationship to the ecology and a shift in what we see going on right now in the world right now with the political and social climate.
For sure. And more concretely, what do you offer today as part of your business?
Most of the time I work with people one-on-one around the world. I get on calls with people weekly, video calls. And what we do is we dissect what were the actual events that have created the beliefs that we have about ourselves in life. And we do some timeline healing, some quantum healing. We go back and we work with the individuals that were involved in our autobiography. And we start to take control of our mind. I teach people, how do you begin to choose the language that moves through your mind, and so that it moves you towards what you want to be experiencing? Because we all have a default thought pattern that we run based on our challenges that we face that we didn't properly process yet. And it doesn't matter if you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, your parents were too nice to you, they didn't let you, it's like there's always something that we need to overcome. And so I help people to identify and reprogram, take agency over the mind again, so they can start redirecting their thoughts, their speech, and their actions to move them closer to what they want to be experiencing. And each individual, goes down a unique journey, but a lot of times it has to do with mental mastery and emotional mastery, and coming to terms with your sexuality by integrating the primal animal with your spiritual essence. So combining these two polarities so that you can express fully these aspects of ourself which have been rejected. And that's part of coming home to self. So everybody goes on their unique journey because we each have our own stories. But the framework is basically coming into control of your life again through doing your internal work.
And you work mainly with men?
Yeah, I'd say 90% of the people that I work with are men. I also work with women, but it's less often. Yeah,
I could see why also, if I can share. Well, we're part of the same communities, and I see you often at your Galban here in Ubud in Bali, and it's beautiful to see. Inspiring to see how you can play with different energies, and sometimes so you're like you're quite muscular in a man's body, and you can have a lot of power, and sometimes you can dance with a lot of sensuality and honor your feminine at the same time, right? So as a young man, I find it very inspiring.
Yeah, well, I think that we have been taught a lie. One of the biggest lies that have disrupted our connection to self, connection to our partners, connection to our power, is that emotions are a sign of weakness. And that strength, if you're stoic and you don't have emotions, you're strong. And this is actually not true. Only the strong can have emotions. Like, it takes a lot for you to be vulnerable and actually show what you're feeling and actually embody what you feel. And to express that openly to the world takes a very strong man to do that. And so once individuals realize the power power of their emotions and also the power that their blocked emotions are having over them, they will tend to want to integrate into their life this aspect of the human experience, which is fundamental, which is energy frequency moving through us. We often call it emotionality. And what I've done is my work is to learn how to get out of the hyper intellectual mind, which is narrating our experience constantly. It's like basically self-consciousness, wondering about the impression that we're making on other people, questioning the validity of what we're doing, and hyper intellectualizing everything versus being embodied in your feelings and actually connected with yourself. And I liken it to sitting at the beach and holding up a cell phone, trying to film the sunset and tapping on the settings versus sitting down there and feeling the chromotherapy and the warm sun as it sets and the warm breeze and hearing the waves and really being immersed in the six senses. And so what I've done is my own work of integrating in that capacity to really feel. And that's the feminine side of me that you see that makes my masculine so palatable. And I think that one of the things I want to talk about is how our dark masculine aspects of ourselves have been rejected because they create a lot of damage, but those parts of us take action and they create discipline and they move our projects forward. And with that power and precision, you can actually be more powerful and more effective at your craft and actually creating what it is that you want in life. And many men don't have that. They're very good at the light masculine, which is strategy, it's planning, it's learning, it's investigating, it's serving others, it's being a good guy. But when it comes to getting your needs met, we tend to be a people pleaser and we don't want to step on toes and we want to make sure everything is we hyper analyze the situation versus stepping into our feelings. And what gives us permission to step into this dark masculine is an integration of that sensual side that you saw on the dance floor. And it's the feminine flowing essence that is so sensitive that I can sense how you feel within myself. It's a form of ESP. And when I'm that sensitive to my own emotions and your emotions, I have the finesse of being able to express all of myself without creating damage. And that's how we get to own that part of ourselves again.
That's super interesting also how you link the feminine with the dark masculine. I mean, that's a realization I've had for myself. Lots of men, we live in a very macho society, I feel, at least for a lot of the Western world, and growing up, as you said, not expressing your emotions as a man and not learning to feel. And then in places like Ubud, you discover that often as a man. And I've experienced something missing in me as I was exploring my feminine side and dancing and being less getting stuff done. And a realization I had was also linking feminine with dark masculine was that I feel because I wasn't feeling, there was no dark masculine to protect that feminine in a way. So that's how I see that they're very linked. And then that was showing up externally in my life too.
They're polarities, you're right, and they're totally interlinked with one another. It's like the chicken and the egg. They both need to be worked on simultaneously, and it's part of the evolutionary process that many men go through.
And like, for example, when I was so much in my light masculine, I hold space for you and I'm so enlightened, I don't have needs. Well, then my inner feminine didn't trust that masculine because it wasn't perfectly genuine. There was repression there. And that's where now I feel, when you integrate more that dark masculine with the light, then the feminine feels more safe.
You can create a safe container for you to actually express your emotional chaos as well. So I think that there is we talking about light feminine here. There's also a dark feminine aspect of us that's very important, and that balances the light masculine. So the light masculine is what we usually do. We're very intellectual, which is what we're doing here. We're talking about things and we're thinking about things using the language center, whereas the feminine is feeling things. She's sensing, and so we often shy away from certain emotions, and this actually stops us from really taking action in our projects and being able to actually create something of value for the world to present to them our brainchild and our baby that we're creating here, is because we don't want to feel failure. We don't want to feel shame. We don't want to feel rejected. We don't want to feel fear. And so these are the dark feminine emotions. She's the victim. She's feeling all the low vibrational frequencies. And the light masculine can create a space and a container for her to feel. And the dark masculine is going to be that counterbalance that allows you to go into the light. You can basically go into the light and the nurturer and the beauty way of the light feminine, because a man who is not strong in his masculinity, he feels he can't be his feminine. He doesn't feel he gives himself permission, doesn't give himself permission to really be in his softness. But when he's in his real power, he knows he can always step right back into that at any moment. It gives him a lot more permission to be in the feminine. But I think it's important that we realize that those darker emotional feelings that we typically reject, we say, I don't want to feel shame. I don't want to feel guilt. I don't want to feel fear. Well, you don't turn down just those ones. You turn down your capacity to feel. Okay, we can't pick and choose which emotional frequencies we turn off. It's a suppression of the emotional system. And in order to be really effective at our craft, to be able to embody what it is that we're teaching, we really need to be able to feel the full range of the human experience. And when we dumb down our emotional system, not only are we just talking and we're not really embodying what we're teaching, but we have limited our capacity to also feel those higher vibrational frequencies of love and gratitude. And that needs to be the fuel through which we do all of our passion projects. We're doing it for the love of doing it. We love our life. We love what we do. We love ourselves. That energy makes you successful. Okay, so I think we have to allow ourselves to get into these feminine bits that men have typically shied away from for a while. And those give us the capacity to really embody the masculine essence in a healthy way.
I'd like to go a little bit on your hero's journey. Mm-hmm. What led you to be passionate about what you're doing and to do it as a career rather than, embracing a normal job?
Well, it's my story has a lot of twists and turns, and I had a colorful childhood. I grew up in a very challenged household. My parents did the best they could. My mother committed suicide when I was 4 years old. I had a stepmother who took on a couple kids who weren't hers, and so she was really a big open heart, but she was carrying around a lot of wounds from her own childhood. She didn't have the emotional intelligence skills to process. My father was a PTSD war veteran from Vietnam, and I went through like military style torture, being, it just goes on and on with the violence and psychological violence, and kicked out of the house naked and beaten on a regular basis when I was a kid. Very, very challenging, to eventually defending myself against attack from my stepmother and winding up in juvenile hall, where I was in a concrete box about the size of a bathroom with no windows that you could use. There was a plexiglass window that was built in circa 1970 that was hazed over, and you could see the gate behind it, but you couldn't see through it. So there was a metal gate on the other side. And I remember I was standing up on my bed as a kid, and I was examining this window, and I see that there was a line scratched across the plexiglass. I assume some child had gotten a paper clip from his court case papers and had scratched back and forth in his attempt to make some sort of like way out of there. I don't know. But at the apex of the movement, there was a pinhole, and I saw a little bit of white and black flickering outside the window. And I got my eye really close to it, and I realized it was a leaf, and I could feel wind hitting my eye. And I put my nose up to that little hole. I'm a little kid on my tippy toes, and I'm smelling the air from outside, and I just realized what was going on in that moment. And I dropped to my knees, and I started crying for a moment, and I cried, and I wailed, and then I made a decision. I am not going to cry anymore. I am not going to be sad. And I just became very convicted about my freedom, and I started screaming, freedom, freedom. And I realized in that moment that no one was ever going to take that away from me. And that freedom meant much more than living inside of a box for me. It really meant like my personal freedom to be myself. And that's what I learned a lot in that moment about how important it was for me to be free. And some other things happened. I became a little bodhisattva. I sat down on my little concrete slab, and I just was peaceful.
How old were you?
I was about 13 years old. And I was in that room with no human contact. There's no windows, no human contact. They come in, they give you food, or they mop the floor once a day. But that's it. And I was in there for over a month. And that time, I was very peaceful. I sat, and I just wasn't feeling anything. Well, what had happened was I turned off my entire emotional system. Okay, so I became numb to feelings, and I used spirituality to transcend the human experience, which is what a lot of men do. And we end up like going into meditation to like escape this life that we are feeling, that is not satisfying us or living up to what our expectations of our future was. And I think a lot of old men end up doing that, meditating their lives away. And I had done that there. And I over time throughout my life, as I left that and I went on my adventures, I was very intellectual. I got all the things a person could want. I had the European sports car, the Japanese sports bike. I had the 2-story apartment in downtown San Francisco, and I had the trophy girlfriend with the everything fake breasts and the everything you could. I had all the muscles and the 20-inch rims, and I had the bank account and all of that.
Real winner.
A real winner. I did everything I was supposed to do, but I felt so empty, and I was not happy. I didn't truly feel love. I didn't truly feel happiness. I had about 5 really good friends that I went out to lunch with, hung out at parks with, and did stuff with. I'd go on vacation, and I just wasn't connected to anything. I was just like, what am I doing here? I need to go back to work. And, I realized over time that there was this itchy irritability. Something just wasn't right, that I needed to make a change and find something within myself, and I had a massive spiritual awakening on my birthday in 2011. I really just, it shifted, something shifted inside of me. And I got inspired to do a practice of meditation that was about 6 to 8 hours every single day. And when I wasn't in seated meditation, I was in walking meditation, and I walked in slow motion.
Was that Vipassana?
It was a living, waking Vipassana, which is something I teach my students. And it is actually taking Vipassana out into the world and living it, being in a constant state of meditation. And I went into slow motion. They called me the Oracle because I would go to festivals and I would just walk in slow motion, and I would come up to you and just drop this knowledge bomb on you and just keep walking. And I was just feeling everything. And so what happened in that is I heightened my sensitivity. I began attempting, just trying, because I was inspired to feel you, to feel the electronics, to feel the wood, to feel the concrete. And I could feel the tunnel as I drove through in my motorbike. I could feel the 360 horses underneath my body. The energy of everything became very apparent because I tried. And I diligently focused on that. I was constantly in a state of meditation, attempting to feel energy frequencies and break through into something that was not of the 3D world. And I did that for about 3 months. After 3 months, I moved to about 2 to 3 hours of seated meditation, and still constant meditation outside of my seated meditation. And what that did was it unlocked unconditional love within me. I started to feel everything, and the frequency that became most potent was love. I loved you. I'm still that way. I love everybody. I'm really such a lover. And I have love at first sight, mutual love at first sight, 8 times since then. And we've had long-term relationships. Mutual love at first sight. How many times have you had that? Okay, where 2 people meet for the first time and actually are madly in love and stay together for years, having children sometimes and traveling the world together. Like, it's a very rare thing. And it happens a lot for me because I have become love, and I don't need anything from you. I just want to love you. And I went on a practice that absolutely changed my life that I would love to share with your audience. And it is that I just tried my best to have gratitude and love about everything. And it was a constant practice for about a month, and it literally adjusted the neural pathways in my mind. So that was the most effortless thing I could do, was to embody love without needing anything in return from life, because it was so nurturing to me. That's the thing about love, is when I love you, it feels really good inside me. You may not feel anything unless you have your own connection with love, but it nurtures me to be connected with that frequency on a regular basis. And it literally changed my life. I went from having 4 or 5 really good friends to having 400 people that absolutely loved me because I loved them. I created a resonant frequency around me that actually made everyone around me love me. And now I have thousands upon thousands of people around the world who absolutely love me. This is one of the most life-changing things that you could gift yourself, is to unlock the capacity to palpably feel love as a frequency within the viscera of your body. And everything you do in life is an exploration of that. And I do that for my work. I do that in my personal relationships, and I'm constantly reinforcing that within my being. That was the biggest life changer for me. I think that's what put me on my journey the most. Yeah.
And then to do it professionally?
To do it professionally, I came to Ubud. And this is, they call it Bollyversity. This place here, we have a lot of pseudo spiritualism where there's a lot of forked tongued kids that talk in the shadows about people, a lot of gossip. That's the shadow side of conscious communities is a lot of gossip. People formulate ideas about others, which are actual projections of their own unhealed wounds and relationship to themselves that they haven't quite worked out yet. And they project it out on other people. And that's what gossip is usually, is people formulating opinions based on their own internal wounds. Our opinions, really, whether they're positive or negative about other people, are not reflective of reality. They're reflective of our internal landscape. And I had to really fight for what I believed in. Okay. I would be like, you see me on the dance floor and I love everybody. I love the men. I love the women, old, young, blue, purple, yellow, green. Yes, there might be sensuality and sexual energy that arises, but for me, it's an exploration of feelings. It's expressing myself emotionally to the world. And I put that in my work. Everything that you do must fundamentally be supported by energy. You cannot fake it till you make it. You must feel it first. And I felt like I needed to put a flag in the ground for this, to really be a pillar for this, because people had a misunderstanding of what it is to be a loving and sensual, free man who I follow all integrity, moral standards, never overstep boundaries, but individuals who are looking as bystanders had a lot to say about it. And so I really had to have a voice for women understanding their yes and their no and being able to usher in the experiences that they want to have happen, and men having emotional sensitivity to be able to modulate their desires and their attainment of their desires with finesse so that they weren't overstepping women's boundaries, unsaid boundaries, energetic boundaries. And so I started creating classes here in Ubud I call Ecstatic Contact, and helping people to explore nonverbal boundary expression and showing your yes and your no without speaking, through dance and movement, using that as a medium. And that really started catalyzing me being a leader, and me teaching people of what it means to be sensitive, what it means, the difference between sex, love, intimacy, sensuality, how to be empowered, how to show your authenticity, what it means to be fully embodied in your essence, open, and what contractions are, what are the blockages to us really being in our love and in our heart and unconditional love for each other, and how to work beyond those things, because it has a fractal effect in the rest of our lives. And I started people would travel around the world to come to my class. Like here, it was in Ubud and it was like 9,200 people there. People would tell me, I just flew here today to make sure that I could make it to your class from Germany or from Sweden and stuff like that. So that was really inspiring me. And I just decided to start being a voice for that. And I started bringing it to Instagram and Facebook, got a massive following very quickly in a year, and started making changes in people's lives. And I felt, wow, I'm in my dharma. This is just channeling through effortlessly. This must be what I'm here to do.
And I love how you talked about sometimes on the dance floor expressing your sensuality or sexuality, and that's exploring feeling. As a man, well, I think there's a lot of shame around sexuality, and for men, for women. I feel as a man, there's a lot of shame, especially in the sexuality when it comes to being really in our power in a way, like the powerful man that even sometimes takes in a way. So,
well, I think there's a good reason for that. Yeah. Okay, we're now just after the period of the Me Too campaign that has revealed the pain, the immense deep wounding and gnash between the masculine and feminine that was created by men with unchecked power, guys who had laser focus on what they wanted, and they didn't have any emotional intelligence to be able to understand how they were affecting other people. There was generations of that, and now we're actually cleaning up the mess of our forefathers. We didn't actually maybe overstep any boundaries. Maybe you've never overstepped the boundary, but it's still affecting you as a man because you feel a sense of shame and guilt around that power of masculinity. Very easy for me to be in the TLC, gentle, loving care, but to feel my love and passion for you and that animal, that primal, that's scary because other men have caused damage. Well, here's the thing. We don't want to abandon that. We use knives.
Because women want that.
They want that, and they don't want us to be feminized. We use knives to cook. We've cut our finger many times. We don't stop using knives. We've had motorbike accidents or car accidents. we don't stop using the motorbike or the car. We just are more careful with the way that we use it. And so I think what men need to do is to begin to reclaim their capacity to own this in a healthy way. And again, this comes back to really doing our work around the light feminine, really understanding how to be empathetic to the point of ESP, so that I can feel what you're feeling.
ESP
is extrasensory perception. I'm psychic. And that's just because I'm trying to feel. I'm trying to feel everything. And now you're an extension of me, because within my internal milieu, typically we think of ourselves as what we can sense within our six senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and vibrational frequency, which we often equate with emotions. And that whatever is going on within my internal milieu, that's me. And I can't feel you. If somebody's giving you a massage, I don't feel it. So you're not me, and this is not me. But once you can start sensing what the other person is feeling, they are now part of your internal milieu, because you're actually feeling what they're feeling. So my level of sensitivity to what I'm experiencing with individuals is I'm actually within their energy body. And that's why you see me so graceful around the dance floor, able to connect with every single individual that I desire on a very deep level, enmeshed immediately in love and in sensuality and tenderness, because I'm actually just open energetically and sensing what's going on, and I'm modulating how I'm expressing my own feelings based on what they're feeling to co-create something, rather than what the dark masculine has done previously, which is force his agenda on women. So let's think of it, instead of taking anymore, it's offering. I have a really beautiful gift to offer you, which is my loving attention. I want to worship you. I want to make you feel good, because I feel your pleasure. When you feel good, I feel good. I actually feel it within my own body. So I want to worship you in every possible way that I can. And this is a very beautiful gift. It brings the purity back to our dark masculine and to our sexuality. So we don't have to feel guilt and shame anymore. And one of the quickest pathways to get back to this is to begin to love people without any other agenda, just to feel and express your love. Do it with men in a platonic way. Do it with other women you're not sexually attracted to. And then when you start to desire somebody sexually, you'll feel more openness and capacity to express and offer this beautiful gift that you have. And you'll cherish that gift. Your attention is a very valuable thing. You don't want to give it to somebody who's in their head, or who is not embodied, who cannot accept your beautiful gift, because you want to keep it protected. What you have to offer is like diamonds. It's more rare than diamonds, especially when you're an embodied man.
Yeah, thanks. And I have a question, but I'm looking at the words, how to formulate it, because this is always a tricky topic. But when you talked about not taking and giving, I've been with women with whom, in the scope of a role play, of course, but like the idea of almost being forced. And I feel it's something there in the collective consciousness, and of course with the boundaries of having it in a certain environment where it's safe and played. But yeah, how do you? Yes, you're here to give. You're a man, and you can give as an animal in your power, like you're here to serve and to honor the goddess. But I feel sometimes there's also that part of, like, from the woman that's like, take me, and that can be, of course, where the danger is also.
Well, I think what you're talking about is somebody that you've already established a connection with. Yeah. You already understand the boundaries that that individual has. And I think that each one of us men, and this is funny, it's starting to talk about sexuality instead of stuff, but this is great. So each one of us men have some perversions or some fetishes or some weird things that we want to express. Perhaps we took them from pornography, or they just kind of popped up in our head. We just saw them in the collective field and we want it. The guilt and the shame and the suppression of those things actually toxifies you. And when you're disconnected from your sexuality because you've suppressed it because you feel like it's bad and you don't want to like harm anybody, or you're embarrassed about it, you don't express all of yourself into the world. You don't know who you are. How can you be effective at your craft? How can you actually be embodied in your full essence if you are rejecting a fundamental part of what it means to be a human being? And if I can truly step into the light feminine and love and worship you, then I can objectify you. I oscillate in between finding parts of your body that I can passionately obsess on with meeting your soul and loving and being in gratitude of you, and back into the passion of the cleft of this and the underside of that. And there's just this natural shifting between the primal animal and the spiritual essence of us, which is the heart, really feeling it as a palpable sensation of pleasure that moves not just through the penis, but actually through the rest of the auric field, so that when we are making love to somebody, we have the freedom to express those things that we have previously suppressed, because we're doing it in a way that has finesse. Is modulated based on what the needs of the other individual is, and it becomes an act of service. And when we're sensitive enough, we can feel when that person is being pleased by what we're doing, and that feeds us. It heals us. Oh my God, this thing that I was so ashamed of, that I felt was bad, is now celebrated by you, and I feel more accepted. And this has a fractal effect on the rest of our life. It really does. Sexuality is just one finger on the hand, okay, of the human being. It's one part of us. And so it's not the totality of our experience, but it is a fundamental aspect of our experience. And if we reject that part of us, then we reject the animal. Okay, and your animal is how you mobilize here in human form. We need this animal. This primal animal is all we've got to actually move things in the 3D world. How do you make a change in the world? By moving matter, by moving things, moving other people, moving objects, moving our mouth, moving our own body. So we need to be connected in an energetic way with this vehicle for actually enacting change in the world. And we want to do it from a place of total, not only acceptance of ourself in all aspects, and not only love of ourself, but celebration. And that comes through having experiences, actually stepping through our fears, overcoming the blockages that we have, and creating real life scenarios that there's wins, where there's win-win for the people involved and us. And what that does is it starts to give us that felt sense of the intuition within our body. We begin to trust this thing again, and the way that we walk through life changes.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel there's a lot to do with shame around sexuality in general in our society. I'm pretty sure you'd agree that. Do you think it's on purpose that there's so much repression of our sexuality? That's a way to control people?
Well, we can focus on the agenda and create the drama triangle, or we can focus on the solutions. So we can have a conversation about the theories and why we think this might be happening. But I think the best thing for us to do is to realize that that is there. It's present within us all. Okay. It's within the collective field. It's affecting all of us. And to make a conscious decision, you have to decide what are your morals and values and codes of conduct that you live by, and you cannot let anybody else overstep those. If someone else is triggered by your freedoms, as long as you're respecting their boundaries, their personal space and personal property, then you have the freedom to be as you please. This is your sovereign right, and you have to put a sword in the ground. What do you believe in, and what is it that you stand for in life? And having that moral code of conduct actually makes you feel step into your power. You're king. You now are king of the kingdom around you. You usher in an experience wherever you are, and you're responsible for your own experience. You move from letting other people's opinions stop you from being fully in your sexual and powerful essence, to caring for others and their emotional reactions, but staying within your truth. If you don't know what your moral code of conduct is, you're always going to default to codependency, which is allowing the opinions of others and this collective repression of the empowered man to stop you from fully stepping into who you truly are. Once you can care for other people and their emotional needs, and you know what you stand for, you have the freedom. You're unlimited. You can totally do what you want in the world. You're unstoppable. Yeah.
Can feel that. So we talked about harnessing the power of the dark masculine. Do you feel there's some things you want to add on that?
I think so. I think so. I think it'll probably tie into this. Okay. So one of the things I think that stops us from being really effective in our passion projects and affecting our clients' lives positively, because what we want to do is we want to have really powerful life cycle in this short, finite period we get to spend with somebody. I usually have 6 months to a year with an individual, and I want to make sure that every single session is impactful for that individual, where it's like they just went through like a medicine ceremony with me in each and every single one. So how can you actually do that if you have addictions, if you have guilt and shame, if you have depression, if you're disconnected from yourself, if you feel apathy, if you feel like you don't have the drive and conviction and discipline to actually create something? Well, I want to talk about that sexual energy and how we can, and that dark masculine, and how we can utilize that to actually move ourselves beyond these blockages. And women can use the same thing. So each of us feels desire. The Buddhists poo-poo it. Desire is a bad thing. I don't like the middle way. I like balance. Take me to the extremes on both ends, okay? Extreme bliss and joy, orgasmic, all the way to the depths of hell and pain and emotional heartbreak. And I can oscillate in between those, and I love that. For me, my life is very rich, that sweet agony, it's gorgeous that way. It's boring for me the middle way. And so I realized something else, that the tantric teachings, which Buddhism actually comes from, talks about desire as being one of the 3 powers of the creator. Whoever created this whole plane that we're on, they first had to feel this, and any kind of human achievement or advancement in technology or anything that you've ever achieved within your life, your family, your friends, and anybody that you know who's actually successful first had a desire. And we each have desire, and it's an energy within us. And sometimes it plays out in sexuality. Sometimes it plays out as us ending up scrolling on our phone, or smoking weed, or drinking a lot, or doing rape every day, or whatever, like it plays out in addictions. And what is that? There's an energy within us. You can feel it. If you're addicted to weed and you got a bag of weed right there, you want it really bad. You can feel it. That's a vibrational frequency. It's an energy that you need to be able to wield that in a healthy way. And what you're doing is you're taking that energy, and as soon as it comes up, you think it's bad, and you dissipate it. You dissipate it into the screen. You dissipate it into the weed. You dissipate it into watching videos and unending scrolling and all
Peanut butter.
Being what?
Peanut butter,
whatever it is, food or exercise or even meditation and breath work, things that you think are healthy or you're trying to heal, you're avoiding a sensation within you. That is suppression. It's a form of suppression. And that toxifies the emotional body and disconnects us from understanding this frequency on a very deep level. Now, desire, when you can play with it, and I love doing desire play. I know this is kind of, it's a little bit cheeky, but I'm going to share it anyways. When I have a new lover, or with my current lover or whatever, I love like almost making love. And if you have a new person that you're exploring with and you both want to make love, you've had the talk already about STDs and anybody else in the picture, you guys have worked through your boundaries and all that stuff, and it's full green light. And you're on a date, it's your 3rd date or 4th date, and you both know you're at your house in privacy and it's getting juicy. And you could, the clothes are off, you totally could. You're at heaven's gate, you're making out, she wants it, you want it, but you don't do it. And she wants to do it and you want to do it, but you don't. And you build and you build and you want it. It's there. It's right there for you. She wants it. It's just like, it's right there. And feel that energy pulsing through you. And you typically just dissipate it in this short-lived blip of ejaculatory, and it's gone. Well, what we need to start doing is using different parts of our lives where we feel this desire and harnessing it, not dissipating it. And I like sexual play because that's a real life, tangible way where the energy just goes through the frickin' roof really fast. And you have a real time experience of what it feels like to harness that energy, to feel it inside of you, to understand it. And you can do that with any of your addictions. Once we can do that, not dissipate it, feel it, that essence, let it move us and be it, embody it more in a wordless state of consciousness, we can now begin to direct that energy. That same desire that you had for your addictions can now be the thing or for that actually pushes you beyond your stagnation. It pushes you beyond your blockages. It helps you step. That's the dark masculine. Now I'm like fusing that energy and I'm beginning to take the first step that's directly in front of me right now to enact my dreams, to move myself closer to the things that I want to be experiencing.
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, to really feel that desire. How would it play out if I want to check my phone before going to bed? Like you feel the impulse and you stay, but like, do you meditate on it?
That's great.
So, or do you like punch a pillow? Or like how do you express it in a way? Is it more a meditation, observing of the thoughts, observing of the desire, or a more cathartic expression of it, but differently?
So there's multiple parts of our process. There's the language aspect, which is our thoughts, our internal speech, maybe talking to somebody else about it. So that's the language center.
Or journaling on it?
Yeah, that's journaling. That's all words, right? Then there's another part of it, which is the vibrational frequency. We want to move to that, like Nikola Tesla taught us, and we all understand that everything fundamentally is vibrational frequency. Even matter itself is made up with vibrational frequency. We're living in a hologram that's actually just wavelengths, and the space in between molecules is what's connecting you and I is the same thing. Once we understand that the energy frequencies that we feel are communicating to the world and to us much more loudly than our actions and our words, we start to understand that that is the part of the process that needs to be heeded. And what we want to do with any vibrational frequency that is of the emotional category is emote. And it's the one thing that human beings are not doing right now. We're talking about and we're thinking about. We're trying to understand and explain our feelings. We're writing about them. Everything is language center, okay? That the language center is processing of the mind. Feelings happen within the body. They're registered and seen with the inner eye and witnessed within the palpable senses of the body. But the thinking of it as taking us out of the actual experience of the vibrational frequency into our subjective opinion of it. We have now taken the forefront of our consciousness is focused on what I think about what I'm feeling and what you think about what I'm feeling versus the actual experience itself. And this disconnects us. It disembodies us from that energy. And so what I would suggest that everybody do is learn how to emote energy in motion, stepping into a trance-like state where you're hypersensitive to the six senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and vibrational frequency, the palpable energy you can sense within you. And there's no language center activated. So it's a shamanic state of mind. It's an altered state of consciousness where you're feeling and you're expressing the movements of your body are actually elicited from the energy, and what they're doing is they're massaging the energy. So because my body is moving me this way, I actually feel that energy frequency more. So it's massaging more of it into my experience. It's heightening my ability to embody and feel that emotion by expressing it physically. And that fuel is utilized to create that movement. Just like you drive your car and you use fuel, use petrol, any kind of energy you feel causes a different kind of body movement. When I feel sexual, my hips move. Everybody, when we get in that desire play with your partner, you're going to eventually get this spinal undulation. So is she or he. And that is what that energy does. Think about this. Anytime somebody trains for a race and they're first place, they just ran a marathon, no matter if it was the beginning of time or 10,000 years from now on every continent, what happens when the guy wins the race? When his chest hits that ribbon, what does he do? Puts the arms up, victory pose, because he feels that, yes, motherfuckers, I win.
Expands.
Exactly. He feels that, and that shoves the body into that position. We didn't teach people to do that. They do that. When we're angry, teeth clench, isometric contractions. Anger does that. So it's contorting the body the way that frequency wants to move. Okay. And so when we allow our body to move the way that energy frequency wants to move, then we utilize that fuel for the movements. It allows it to pass through our system. Okay. And so we don't, just like we drive our car, we're not using the fuel just to get rid of fuel. We're not just driving around to get rid of gas. We're not feeling and expressing just to get rid of desire. We're doing it to create a deeper relationship to that energy frequency, to understand it more so we can wield it within our lives.
Okay, and so to go back to my example of I want to check my phone and I made a decision not to, and I'm compulsive about it. Could be food, could be sex, but let's say with the phone, I would then feel in my body what's there, and because the reason I want to check my phone is maybe I feel lonely, maybe I feel sad, maybe I feel angry, and so the body is giving me clues around it. But
I'd say that the energy is there, and so what you want to do
I don't want to over intellectualize it either.
Yes, I would say what you want to do, this is a great question, is do not label your emotion. Okay, the initial phase is don't think about and try to understand, okay, because that just takes it into the language center, takes you into the subjective interpretation of the energy versus the energy itself. What you want to do is turn off the language center and let it move you. And so if I'm feeling loneliness and I'm feeling like desire to connect, and it's just like, and this is happening. I'm not doing this. I'm stepping out of the way and letting feelings express through me, because the ego consciousness has ideas about what should be, could be, would be. That's not reality.
Well, that's going to be my question then, because I feel there might be so much program onto not feeling and the idea of how you should move while you feel, etc. How do you find that pure feeling and expression of your feeling?
Yeah, well, I think when your sensitivity increases through practice, that you'll understand the subtle nuances of your energy frequency. You might have heard people talking about Kundalini, chi, life force, prana, and this is part of your desire energy. It's this, and it's something that you can do if you just try this. Pull, breathe, feel, and bring chills up, and your hackles come up, goosebumps through your arms. Just try. Just try to feel. Energy's there. It's right there. It comes through in waves, right? It's just like, whoa, fuck, I'm feeling so much now. And then it starts to dissipate and you can't do it very well, but it's a muscle that we flex. And so when we start to practice over time, there's something called incident dependent neural plasticity, IDNP. What it speaks to is the supple nature of the root system of the mind. And that as you practice, the neural pathways adjust, create a structural shift that it tries to make it easier for you to do these things without even trying. So that structural shift enacts a functional shift where the mind, it's easier for you to feel. You're constantly feeling and expressing and being yourself is the most natural thing that you could ever do. And so it doesn't become any of those blockages and that stuff, that the stigma that we have around emoting starts to fall to the wayside when you create safe containers for the dark feminine to express through you. Then you can go, after you do all this toxic stuff moving, you can go into the beauty way practice. So that's the love of you, the love of life, the love of other people, and the gratitude, and start experiencing that as the dark and shadowy feelings as a pathway to the light ones. Because typically what we do now is we shun away from those challenging feelings, and they start controlling us from the shadows. Any of the things that you don't look at and express fully and understand are actually like a bit in your mouth, and it's like riding you like a horse and controlling the way that you behave. It's stopping you from living in your truth. It's stopping you from behaving the way you want to. It's contorting your reactions in social situations, in front of your clients, in front of your potential clients. And so once we learn how to embody that, and like we're not afraid of our shadows anymore and our dark feelings, we change our relationship to emotionality, and we find a pathway to the light that is sustainable, that lasts for a long time. It's not a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's something that sustains in our life. We actually feel love and light naturally without even having to try. Yeah.
Thank you, Lion. Just to recap a little bit some of the practices you shared, one of them you really like is moving very slowly and mindfully and really paying attention to feeling as much as possible. You have other practices. So for example, I don't know, you talked about Chi and Kundalini. I do Kundalini yoga and Qigong. I feel that's helped me. Sometimes it was part of your challenge to like beat up a pillow if there's anger. So there's more catharsis exercises. So are there like 3-4 practices you really like to share?
Let's see if I can touch on something new for you guys.
To harness the power of the dark masculine.
Yes, I would say what we want to do is start to embody energy more in a wordless state. So we want to embody our soul more. This is a biological robot. It's a vehicle that we're moving around in. Consciousness, it feels very real. It feels very much like this is just what we are. A lot of people think their property is them, like if you have a car accident, oh, you hit me. No, our cars hit each other. We are not our property, right? And or like, I'm a doctor. No, you're a man that doctors. They think that they're their mind, like I'm confused. No, your brain is confused. They think they're their emotions. I'm sad. No, you're feeling sad right now, right? And like, I'm fat. No, you're not your body. The body that you're residing in is fat, right? But we are the consciousness within there. And I think that when we start to attach the consciousness back to the body, we start to feel our soul, which is emotionality. Then we can start bringing that to our practices, to our work, to make effectiveness at our craft. You have to embody what it is that you teach. It's very important. And you create a certain essence in the space, whether I'm on a Zoom call with you or whether we're face to face here in a chat in my lab at my house. I initially embody energy and I bring that energy to the space, and you feel my energy and my presence, and I'm curating an experience for the individual on a vibrational level. It changes the way that I speak and I present, and it's not that I'm changing my mannerism. My energy is now eliciting a state of confidence and power. It is now creating an experience for my client versus me trying to do something. So I think it's very important for us to do is to learn how to turn off the mind through mental mastery and learn how to harness energy, allow it to move through you and feel it as the most natural thing that you could do. That's one of the practices I believe is very important. The other one is you really want to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you a light worker? Why are you trying to make a difference in the world? Why are you doing your specific flavor of it? Why are you doing your job? And we want to, I think that gives us clarity on that, because it's a very challenging question. The ego gets in the way and all this. So what you want to do is imagine, what would it look like if you were totally successful with the entire world? You had everybody as your client, they came through your program, and it was successful. Whatever you're offering to the world actually changed people's lives, whether it be a product or a service. It actually made an impact and helped. What would it feel like for you? And sit and imagine this utopian society that you created. Close your eyes and feel that. This energy frequency that you feel right now, I call it your vibrational anchor point. Okay, this is your yes. This brings you into your flow state. This energy, I want you to get to know this energy, because this is what you actually want to feel. The way that we get there is insignificant. Some guys want a Ferrari because they just want love. Some guys want a career. They want muscles. What you really want is what's going to happen once you attain that is a sense of a feeling within you, and it's unique to each individual. It's your soul fingerprint. It's what you want. Your soul wants to call in. The consciousness wants to experience from inside of you. And I'd say that once you can understand that frequency by doing practices in the morning to embody it, and at nighttime and throughout the day, tuning back into that frequency, because we're like a radio station or like a radio. The radio stations are all available now. 107.7, 106.1, 97.7. You just have to change your brain to tune into the different frequencies. This particular one is your vibrational anchor point, and you can use this as to guide you into your flow state and make an audit on what you should do in every single moment. You want to feel this energy always. And when it starts to go away, you probably need to do something to change what you're doing. Perhaps you need to go outdoors and be in nature. You need food. You need exercise. You need to connect with people. You need to be more artistic or move something. And then you'll start to get back into your vibrational anchor point again. And what we're doing is we're trying to attune ourselves to that energy all the time by the decisions we make and the way we live and by our inner guidance. And what this is going to do is going to create a vibrational frequency that comes out of you. There's a resonant field that you'll create that causes other people and situations of that same frequency to manifest within your life. And I'm sure you guys all know this, a tuning fork of 432 and a room full of tuning forks. I hit that 432, the other 432 vibrates. I'm in a room full of guitars, hit the key of C, all the guitars, we put mics on them, the key of C vibrates. Mm-hmm. Other individuals begin to resonate at the frequency that you truly want in your life. If you can embody it first, and you'll start to experience it just naturally coming to you from the universe.
Beautiful, brother. Thanks, Lion. We'll arrive at the end of this episode.
Okay.
How can people follow you, and what's next for you?
Lion Galban, liongalban.com, Lion Galban on Instagram, and it's Lion the Cat, and LionGalban. And right now, I'm working on group coaching. I want to make it more affordable for people, and so I'm working on a group coaching thing right now, a 3-month thing, and then I'm not sure when this is going to air.
In about a month, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing that, but I think just look out for me on Instagram if you want some inspiration. I'm always posting things just with deep insights. I'm a channel, and I just open up and I give wisdom that changes people's lives. If you go through and listen to my videos and read what I've written and you practice it in your life, it will absolutely change your life. So for free, you don't even have to invest in anything. Just go and listen and read and really contemplate these things. Immerse yourself in that. Don't watch stuff that you don't need to watch. Don't watch these whatever movies and listen to the radio. Listen to things that are going to affect you positively. Put that in your mind constantly, and I really think it'll change your life.
Yeah, I think my listeners have already ditched their TVs, fortunately. Thank you, Lion, and thank you for showing up in the world as you do. It's very needed, especially sometimes the uncomfortable role of showing that dark masculine that also has its own beauty, and that needs a better light. So thank you. Do you have a last word for the listener?
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch us through to the end, and my dharma is to serve. So if you feel the resonance, please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you, Lion. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for taking some of your precious time to listen to this podcast. If you stayed until the end, I assume it was insightful. If you like this podcast, please share with friends. Remember that if you tag us in your Instagram story at the Lightleaders podcast, we will repost. Tell us what you've learned. You can also leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Now, if you think I can help you grow your soul mission business, you can register for a free 15-minute coaching call with me. Go to www.thelightleaders.org/free call. Thank you again, and let's co-create the conscious new earth together.